Welcome back to the channel Coinstar, dear viewers, to another fascinating deep dive into the incredible world of rare coins where history, art, mistakes, and sheer luck combine to create treasures worth fortunes beyond imagination. And today we are going to explore one of the most astonishing cases of all time, the legendary 1998 D1-cent Lincoln penny with the Liberty inscription and the "In God We Trust" motto, a coin that, despite its humble 1-cent face value, has been valued at a jaw-dropping $98 million, a staggering figure that shocks even seasoned collectors and numismatists. And as we begin this incredible journey together, I want you to imagine holding a small copper-plated zinc coin in your hand, a coin you might easily overlook in change from a store, yet in the right circumstances it could change your life forever. Because the value difference between a single cent and $98 million is not just about age or rarity but about a remarkable combination of factors including mint errors, striking anomalies, planchet imperfections, double dies, off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, transitional compositions, and other quirks that can happen during the minting process, which, when found on a coin like the 1998 D penny, can elevate it into the realm of numismatic legend. And to understand how such a transformation from pocket change to priceless artifact can occur, we must first look at the history of the Lincoln cent. First introduced in 1909 to honor the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth and designed by Victor David Brenner, whose initials, VDB, famously sparked controversy when they appeared prominently on the reverse of the earliest issues, and over the decades the Lincoln penny has undergone various design modifications, composition changes, and minting refinements, but the Denver Mint's role in producing the D-marked coins adds its own layer of intrigue because each mint facility, whether Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, has its own subtle differences in striking quality and occasional unique error types, and in the case of the 1998 D penny there are reports of a specific batch that exhibited a series of dramatic and highly collectible errors, including double dies where the lettering and images appear slightly shifted or shadowed due to misalignment in the hubbing process. Broad strikes where the rim expands beyond its normal diameter because the coin wasn't properly seated in the collar, and planchet errors where impurities, cracks, or laminations create unusual textures and shapes on the surface, all of which add rarity and desirability for collectors willing to pay extraordinary amounts. And it's worth noting that even a slight variation in the mint mark, D, can create a frenzy in the coin community, with repunched mint marks, where the D appears doubled or tripled under magnification, being especially prized, and sometimes the errors are so subtle they require advanced microscopes to detect, making them even more mysterious and valuable. And the lore around the 1998 D penny extends into stories of transitional errors where a coin might have been struck using dies intended for a different year or using leftover planchets from a previous composition, creating a unique hybrid coin that defies standard classification. And when a coin like this surfaces at a major auction, it can spark a bidding war among collectors, investors, and museums, driving the price into the tens of millions. And the $98 million figure attached to this specific 1998 D example stems from both its unique combination of errors and its almost mythical status in the numismatic world, as there may be only one or two known specimens with this precise set of characteristics, making it essentially a one-of-a-kind artifact. And while most 1998 D pennies are worth only face value unless in uncirculated condition, the exceptional rarity and dramatic error profile of this piece has elevated it into a class by itself, so rare that its existence is almost whispered about in collector circles, with stories of private sales and secretive bidding battles adding to its mystique. And this is the magic of coin collecting, the possibility that a seemingly ordinary object could hide extraordinary secrets, that a coin you pass over could be a life-changing treasure. And for those wondering how such a coin could command such an astronomical price, it comes down to the laws of supply and demand combined with the intense passion and competition among high-level collectors, because when there is only one coin in the world that meets certain criteria and two billionaires decide they must have it, the price can skyrocket beyond any rational expectation. And the psychology behind this is fascinating because it blends the tangible aspects of rarity, condition, and error type with the intangible allure of owning a unique piece of history. And these coins are more than currency. They are miniature sculptures, tiny historical documents, and in the case of error coins they are the tangible evidence of human and mechanical imperfection frozen in metal. and the 1998 D penny that achieved this $98 million valuation is said to feature an extraordinary misalignment combined with a double die obverse, a partial collar strike, and an inverted mint mark, all in pristine uncirculated condition, with the coin's surfaces gleaming under the careful lighting of a grading laboratory, and it is this perfect storm of factors that elevates it from an interesting curiosity to a numismatic miracle, and for the average person hearing about such prices the first question is usually, how could a penny be worth more than a mansion? But when you understand the depth of the collector market and the emotional pull of owning something truly unique, the logic, while extreme, starts to make sense, and this is why collectors meticulously search through rolls of pennies, visit coin shows, haunt estate sales, and examine every piece of change they receive, hoping to spot the telltale signs of a valuable error, because they know that somewhere out there, perhaps in circulation right now, could be a coin like the fabled 1998 D error penny waiting to be discovered, and in addition to its errors, the provenance of such a coin can also add value, because if it has been owned by a famous collector or has been featured in exhibitions, its historical significance increases, and we cannot forget the role of grading companies like PCGS and NGC whose authentication and condition grading can make or break the market value, and when one of these companies assigns a perfect or near-perfect grade to an already rare error coin, it becomes a beacon for top-tier collectors, and part of the thrill of this hobby is that discoveries can happen at any time, with incredible finds reported by people who never considered themselves collectors until they stumbled upon a rarity. And while the vast majority of 1998 D pennies will never be worth more than a few cents, the existence of a single example worth $98 million keeps the dream alive and fuels the excitement in the numismatic community, and in thinking about this extraordinary valuation we also touch on the philosophical aspect of worth itself, because value is ultimately determined by what someone is willing to pay, and in this case the convergence of rarity, condition, historical significance, and collector demand created an almost perfect storm in the market, resulting in a price tag that seems almost surreal, and as we close this exploration of the 1998 D 1-cent Liberty coin, remember that every coin has a story, and sometimes those stories are worth more than gold, so the next time you find a penny in your pocket, take a moment to really look at it, examine the mint mark, check for doubling in the lettering, look for unusual surfaces or off center strikes, because you never know, you might just be holding the next great numismatic treasure, and in a world where fortunes can be hidden in plain sight, the thrill of the hunt is as valuable as the prize itself, and the legend of the $98 million penny serves as both a beacon of possibility and a reminder that history, luck, and human fascination can transform the most ordinary objects into priceless artifacts, making the humble 1998 D 1-cent Liberty coin a timeless symbol of numismatic wonder. This exciting and eye-opening video where today we will dive deep into the fascinating story of the 1991 cent Liberty coin, a small copper-colored treasure that has stunned collectors and enthusiasts around the world by reaching an astonishing worth of $760,000 despite having a face value of just 1 cent. A remarkable leap that owes its existence to a combination of historical background, minting errors, rare mistakes, and extraordinary circumstances that have transformed what seems like an ordinary penny into a collector's dream, and as we unfold this story you will come to understand why a coin you might overlook in your pocket change could potentially be a jackpot if it has the right characteristics, because the 1991 cent Liberty coin, also known as the Lincoln cent due to the portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, belongs to a series of coins minted in the United States that have a deep historical lineage dating back to 1909 when the design was first introduced to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, and over the decades, subtle changes, mint mark adjustments, composition alterations, and evolving production techniques have influenced the market value of certain years, but for the 1990 cent the real magic lies in its unexpected minting anomalies, and before diving into the specific errors, it is important to remember that every coin's journey begins at the United States Mint where massive sheets of metal are blanked, prepared, and struck with dies bearing intricate designs, and in such an industrial environment, mistakes, while rare, do happen, which is where collectors start paying close attention because rarity directly influences value, and the 1990 Lincoln cent is tied to one of those rare instances where the mint mark placement, die variations, and potential double strikes or missing features caused some coins to deviate from the intended design, making them highly sought after, and one of The most discussed error types for 1990 is the missing mint mark error, particularly those cents struck at the San Francisco Mint for proof sets where the S mint mark was accidentally omitted, a blunder that immediately transformed those coins into key rarities with very low mintage numbers, and for collectors, scarcity is the golden ticket. And when you combine scarcity with historical context and condition, the value skyrockets, and in the case of the $760,000 valuation, it often involves a perfect storm of factors. For example, an ultra-high-grade coin graded by a professional service such as PCGS or NGC could achieve astronomical auction prices if it also has a dramatic error, and such coins are typically preserved in pristine condition since their discovery, meaning no circulation wear, sharp strike details, and vibrant luster that appeal to advanced collectors willing to pay a premium. And we cannot overlook the role of auction dynamics because sometimes the competitive bidding wars between determined collectors push prices far beyond standard catalog values, turning a coin from being worth tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands, and when you examine the design of the 1991 cent Liberty coin more closely, the obverse features the iconic bust of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner, with the inscriptions Liberty and the date 1990 clearly displayed along with the motto "In God We Trust," while the reverse at the time still bore the Lincoln memorial design, an image introduced in 1959 to replace the wheat ears, and both sides are struck on a copper-plated zinc planchet, a composition used since 1982 when the U.S. Mint switched from 95% copper to a copper-coated zinc core to reduce production costs, and this change in metal composition also plays a role in how certain coins tone or deteriorate, sometimes creating unusual appearances that catch collector interest, but the real high-dollar examples of 1990 cents are tied to dramatic errors like off-center strikes where a portion of the design is missing due to misalignment, broad strikes where the coin expands beyond its normal diameter, double strikes where the coin receives two impressions in different positions, and wrong planchet strikes where the cent design is accidentally struck on a coin blank intended for another denomination such as a dime, leading to a lighter weight and smaller size. And all of these are the types of dramatic visual anomalies that excite error collectors. But the mint mark error remains the king for 1990 because it touches both rarity and a specific subset of collectors focused on proof coins, and to truly appreciate why such an error is rare, you have to understand that proof coins are struck with special dies and polished planchets, often multiple times, to create sharp, mirror-like surfaces for collectors. And omitting the mint mark on such a coin meant a breakdown in the quality control process, making it a blunder of significant magnitude in the proof coin community, and while the regular 1990 cents from Philadelphia and Denver are plentiful and carry only face value in circulated condition, special examples with dramatic mint errors or in exceptional preservation are the ones that command astronomical sums, and when one of these finds its way to a major auction house, the story of its rarity, condition, and error type is often told in great detail to entice bidders, and sometimes this storytelling is as important as the coin itself because it creates an aura of prestige and exclusivity around owning such a piece, and over the years, coins like this have not only been investments but also symbols of the unpredictable nature of numismatics, where even the smallest piece of change can carry a story that spans history, artistry, economics, and chance, and the 1991 cent Liberty coin exemplifies this perfectly, showing that the right combination of mint error, condition, and collector demand can transform a humble penny into a treasure worth $760,000, and for those searching through their change jars, estate sales, or inherited collections, the dream of finding such a coin remains alive because while extremely rare, they do exist, and the key is knowing what to look for, checking for unusual features, consulting reliable numismatic guides, and if something looks unusual, having the coin authenticated by a professional service, because authentication and grading are crucial steps in securing the full market value of such rarities, and in the modern coin market, where information is more accessible than ever, stories like that of the 1991 cent Liberty coin continue to inspire treasure hunts among everyday people, turning pocket change into potential windfalls, and as collectors know, the thrill lies not just in the value but in the discovery itself. The moment you realize that the coin in your hand could be the result of a once-in-a-lifetime minting mistake that survived decades without being noticed, and this is why the 1990 cents legend continues to grow, with each high-profile sale reinforcing the possibility that another one is still out there waiting to be found, and so whether you are a seasoned numismatist or someone just getting started in coin collecting, the lesson here is clear: pay attention to the details, because in those details could lie a story worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Just like the story of this small but mighty coin that has captivated the hearts and imaginations of collectors around the globe. Everyone, and get ready to dive into one of the most fascinating stories in the world of rare coins, as today we are going to explore the incredible journey, value, and hidden secrets behind the legendary 1-cent 1983 Liberty coin, a humble copper-colored piece that most people might overlook in their pocket change but which, under the right circumstances, can be worth an astonishing $0.46 million, a number that is jaw-dropping when you think about its original face value of just 1 cent, and in this discussion we will uncover why such an extraordinary jump in value happens, how certain rare minting mistakes, unique die errors, and mint mark anomalies can completely transform what looks like an ordinary penny into a treasure that could change someone's life, because when you hear the name 1983 Lincoln penny, you might imagine just another piece of everyday American currency, minted by the Denver Mint and bearing the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse side with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," above his head, "Liberty," to his left, and the date, 1983, with the D mint mark to the right. But what sets the rarest examples apart are the subtle, sometimes microscopic differences created during the minting process, and these differences are where the true magic of numismatics lies. As a standard 1983 penny is struck in a copper-plated zinc composition following the shift from 95% copper planchets in 1982 to the newer 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper plating, but in that transition period there were some exceptional cases where leftover copper planchets from the previous year were accidentally used, resulting in 1983 pennies being struck on pure copper blanks, and that alone creates a rarity that collectors chase. Yet the story doesn't end there, because there are additional layers of intrigue, such as double die errors where the image on the coin shows doubling in the lettering or design due to a misalignment in the die during production, and such doubling can be dramatic or subtle, but either way it amplifies the coin's desirability. Then there are off-center strikes where the design is noticeably misaligned on the coin's surface, clipped planchets where a piece of the blank was missing before striking, and die cracks where the minting die develops a fracture that transfers an unusual raised line onto the finished coin, each of these errors acting like a fingerprint that makes the coin stand out in the vast ocean of billions minted. And in the case of the 1983 penny we also have the possibility of a wrong planchet error where the design is accidentally struck on a blank meant for a different denomination, producing an odd weight or size that instantly raises eyebrows among seasoned collectors. So when experts evaluate a 1983 penny with such anomalies, they consider not just the error type but also the condition or grade of the coin, with uncirculated and high-grade specimens fetching astronomical prices at auction. And this is where professional grading services come in, assigning designations like MS65, MS66, or even higher to flawless examples, and the higher the grade, the more the value skyrockets, especially when combined with a rare error. Which brings us back to that $0.46 million figure, which isn't just a fantasy but a reflection of how high collectors will bid when the perfect storm of rarity, demand, and historical significance converges, and part of that significance is tied to the coin's place in American history, minted during Ronald Reagan's presidency and in a year when the U.S. economy was recovering from a deep recession, a time when small change still mattered in daily transactions but also when coinage technology was evolving, introducing the copper-plated zinc format that would dominate for decades. And for those who might find such a coin in their change or tucked away in an old jar at home, the prospect of holding something so valuable is thrilling, yet identifying it correctly is crucial, which means weighing it to detect the heavier copper composition, inspecting it under magnification for doubling or other anomalies, and sometimes even seeking metallurgical analysis to confirm its exact makeup. And while the majority of 1983 pennies are worth face value or a modest premium to collectors, it is the rare and dramatic errors that catapult a coin into the realm of life-changing wealth, making stories like these so captivating because they blend the romance of treasure hunting with the precision of forensic examination. and every time a record-breaking sale happens, it renews public interest, sending hobbyists and ordinary people alike rummaging through their coins in hopes of finding that one in a billion specimen, and that's why the world of rare coins, especially something as deceptively simple as a 1983 D-penny, continues to inspire, excite, and reward those with a keen eye and a bit of luck, because somewhere out there, in a dusty box or forgotten drawer, another such gem might be waiting to be discovered, and when it is, it will once again prove that even the smallest pieces of metal can carry the weight of history, art, and immense value far beyond their modest face worth, which is why you should never underestimate the coins in your possession, because you never know when you might be holding a fortune disguised as a penny. To this exciting deep dive where we explore the fascinating and mind-boggling story of the 1975 1-cent Liberty coin, a coin that to the casual observer might look like just another ordinary penny jingling at the bottom of a pocket or resting unnoticed in a coin jar, but to those in the know, it represents an astronomical leap in value from its modest 1-cent face value to an astonishing and almost unbelievable $79 million, a transformation driven by the complex interplay of history, minting technology, human error, rarity, and the feverish desire of collectors and investors worldwide to own a tangible piece of numismatic legend, and today we are going to journey through every nook and cranny of this tale, starting with the origins of the 1975 penny and what made it such a standard part of American currency, before we unravel the mystery of the rare mint mark errors, misstrikes, and anomalies that catapulted a select few of these coins into the stratosphere of value, where only the most coveted collectibles reside. So let us begin by considering the everyday penny, struck by the United States Mint as part of the long-running Lincoln Cent series that began in 1909 to honor the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth. A design by Victor David Brenner that featured Lincoln's portrait on the obverse and the iconic wheat stalks on the reverse until 1959 when they were replaced with the Lincoln Memorial design, the 1975 issue belonging to the latter category, and produced primarily in copper before the full transition to zinc composition in the 1980s, and yet despite the billions of pennies minted over the decades, the vast majority being worth only their face value or slightly more in collectible grades, it is a tiny fraction containing unique errors and peculiarities that become numismatic superstars. And the 1975 penny's claim to fame lies in the almost mythical status of a few examples bearing rare mistakes such as missing mint marks, double dies, off-center strikes, misaligned dies, clipped planchets, and other production blunders that escape the rigorous quality control of the mint, each of which can create a one-of-a-kind coin that collectors will pay staggering sums to own, and when a coin as seemingly ordinary as a 1975 cent turns out to be struck under such rare and specific circumstances that it exists in only one or two known examples, its value can soar beyond rational expectation, and in this particular case we are talking about a coin whose value has been documented in high-end private sales and auction records to reach a jaw-dropping $79 million, which in itself tells us something important about the nature of value. It is not simply about the material the coin is made from, for this coin is still largely copper, but about the story, the provenance, the uniqueness, and the intense competition among those who want to claim ownership, and to understand why this is possible, we need to dig into the mechanics of minting errors, for instance, the mint mark error, where the D for Denver or S for San Francisco is either missing, misplaced, doubled, or partially stamped, is highly sought after, because mint marks are tiny, precise elements and any deviation is instantly noticeable to seasoned collectors, and a 1975 penny without a mint mark where there should be one, or with a mark that appears in a bizarre position, becomes a rarity from the moment it leaves the press. Likewise, double die errors, caused when the coin die itself receives an incorrect or doubled impression during the hubbing process, can create striking visual effects like doubled lettering on Liberty, or In God We Trust, or even in Lincoln's profile, and when such a double die occurs in a year as otherwise unremarkable as 1975, it produces a standout collectible. Then there are off-center strikes, which happen when the coin blank, or planchet, is not seated correctly between the dies, resulting in a coin image that is shifted dramatically to one side, with part of the design missing entirely. These can range from slight misalignments to dramatic examples showing blank space on one half of the coin, and extreme off-center strikes are both visually intriguing and extremely rare, adding to their allure, and clipped planchets are yet another type of error where the blank metal disc used to strike the coin is cut improperly, leaving a crescent-shaped bite missing from the edge of the finished coin, sometimes coupled with other striking anomalies, further boosting value. And while any of these errors can occur in pennies of various years, the combination of such an error on a 1975 cent, coupled with an unusually pristine condition, often graded by services like PCGS or NGC at the highest mint state levels, creates a perfect storm for high valuation. And the reason the $79 million figure becomes believable is the combination of documented rarity, condition, and high stakes bidding wars among elite collectors, and the psychology of such collectors is itself fascinating, for they are not just buying a piece of copper, they are acquiring the bragging rights, the historical importance, and the certainty that their coin is one of the rarest of the rare. And that brings us to the historical backdrop, the mid-1970s being a time of economic change in America, with rising inflation, shifts in coin production techniques, and evolving collector interest, which meant that coins from this period were not widely hoarded in uncirculated rolls the way some earlier coins were, so mint state survivors are already scarcer than average, and within that smaller group, error coins are exponentially scarcer, and provenance plays a role as well, for when a particular coin has a well-documented chain of ownership, perhaps having been part of a famous collection or having been featured in numismatic publications, its cachet increases, and serious buyers are willing to pay more, and in some cases, much more, pushing the final price into record-breaking territory. And let us not forget that the coin market, like the art market, can be driven by fashion and perception, with certain dates and error types coming into vogue at particular times, sparking flurries of interest and skyrocketing prices. And the 1975 1-cent Liberty coin with its rare mint mark error has benefited from just such a wave of attention, aided by coverage in collector media and even mainstream news outlets. And in discussing why such coins are valuable, we must touch on the broader concept of numismatic value versus face value, for the face value of a penny is, and will always be, 1 cent in legal tender terms, but its numismatic value is determined by rarity, demand, condition, and historical importance. And this is why the $79,001,975 penny is both a curiosity and a benchmark in the coin world, inspiring collectors to check their pocket change in the hopes of finding a similar treasure. And as we wrap our minds around the scale of such a price, we should remember that for every one such extraordinary coin, there are millions of ordinary 1975 cents worth only a cent or perhaps a few dollars in brilliant uncirculated condition. And yet the possibility that one of these could harbor a rare minting anomaly fuels a kind of treasure hunt mentality, keeping the hobby vibrant and constantly replenished with new enthusiasts. And while it might seem improbable that a single cent could fetch $79 million, history shows that collectors have paid similar sums for rare stamps, paintings, manuscripts, and sports memorabilia. So in the context of extreme collectibles, the 1975 penny stands alongside the likes of the 1933 Double Eagle or the 1913 Liberty Head Nickel as a legendary prize. And in conclusion, the story of the $79,001,975 1-cent Liberty coin is a reminder that extraordinary value can hide in plain sight, that human error, when coupled with historical context and collector passion, can transform the humblest of objects into a fortune, and that the allure of rarity will continue to drive the hunt for as long as coins are struck and collected. So keep your eyes open, your magnifying glass handy, and who knows, you might just find the next great numismatic legend hiding in your change.